I told her I worked for AARP, and she said, "Oh, AARP saved my life." And
Oh my God.
I said, "AARP saved your life?" And she said, "Yes, I attended a caregiver conference that AARP put on about 10 years ago, me and my brother. And I always say that AARP saved my life because we were so embroiled in caregiving for our parents who had dementia that we both were just stressed." And she said, "We didn't know what to do." And she went to the conference, and within the first 2 hours, it turned out they didn't even stay for the whole conference. Within the first 2 hours, they connected with other caregivers, ended up having side conversations in the hallway and finding out that they weren't alone and some of the resources that could help them. And that's all it took. And 10 years later, she tells me that event, attending it, saved her life. Caregiving is so complicated, right? It's an act of love. It's filled with frustration and anger and tears and joy. And art is the only thing that I think could really communicate that. I don't think you can ever fully appreciate it. So I wanted to see if we had the theme of caregiving for art, what people would put out there. That was the nexus, because it's very hard to explain to people who haven't given care what it means to give care. I'd love to share her story because it's quite the doozy, and people love to communicate with somebody who not only knows about the resources, but has an emotional connection to what they're going through personally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one thing I found with caregiver education is people really do appreciate information about resources and tips. And what they don't expect, but what hits them every time, is what it means to be with other caregivers and realize that they are not alone. I used to have a volunteer couple, and they were caregivers. And I remember I asked him to speak at one of our events, and he told the story about caring for his father with dementia and how for a year he would sleep on the floor in front of his father's room because he was worried about his father getting up in the middle of the night and wandering or doing something harmful. And he still had to go to work the next day. He was a working caregiver. And when Amy Goyer came out here, she talked about how for her father, who also had dementia, she had a simple, inexpensive pad on the floor in front of his bed. And when he got out of bed, it would actually set off an alarm in her room so that she knew that he got out of bed, and then she could go and see what was going on. And so I think, oh my goodness, my poor volunteer spent a year of his life sleeping on the floor and working full time, worrying about his dad, when something that would have cost less than $20 could have let him sleep in his own bed. If I could write a prescription, I would just advise people involved in elder care to just try a support group.
So Jackie, I'll sign that prescription.
Okay, deal. Hawaii has over 150,000 caregivers. I've heard the statistic 1 in 5 people over the age of 18 is helping an older person to live at home. And the value of that is over $2 billion a year.
Yeah,
so
and there's also quite a bit of variation in terms of younger people. A lot of times when it's younger people helping out, it's among families that actually don't have as much financial resources, that the kids are helping out a lot. And I think that's a really important issue.
Richard Louie, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's produced this documentary series called Sky Blossom. And it's all about young people caring for older adults. And in fact, there's going to be, PBS Hawaii is going to be doing a screening of it in November as part of National Family Caregiver Month.